from Ankara, and Ankara is, as you know, in the middle of Anatolia, and it is not as beautiful and as charming as Istanbul. I know that we're not in Istanbul right now, but we're not also far from Istanbul. This is a relatively historical colored picture or photograph of a photograph, and Istanbul is really charming and really beautiful, and a little bit too beautiful to do research or to concentrate on science. If you want to do something like that, you need to have a worse environment where you can only concentrate on what you are thinking about. So, as you can see, this is a brief view of Ankara from the National Scientific Council building. I guess this is the 13th floor, where the funding of the project are generally happening. So, in this wonderful view, just behind this historical mosque, which has been acting in service since 20 years right now, and we have a bit of university here where our department is located. And I'm a basic researcher who is interested and who is doing applied science on nucleic acid technology. I'm trying to create a nucleic acid-based assay for the genomic variations and mutations. And apart from that, I'm a part of a joint effort who are trying to do some protein-based biomarkers as well. So if you have any ideas, I would really like to hear and try to do as much as I can. And I would today, my topic of this session will be the structure of nucleic acids and proteins, basically. And for the learning goals, we will rapidly go through the structure and the biosynthesis or the polymerization of nucleic acids. And then we will move to the structure and function relation. And then, of course, it's going to be a little bit of genome anatomy, but not too much, and the protein structure. But first, we have to go through the highlights of the history a little bit. So, when I in history, I really want to say the roots. So, in the cell, the information is in the nucleus. So we will start talking with the DNA, and the information is both transferred to the protein with the help of the RNA. And of course, in this wonderful interface of RNA, the proteins are being synthesized and converted to enzymes or structural proteins, which we are really eventually interested in. So the genetic material has been first proposed by the Griffith, saying that on the observations of the bacteria, thinking that there should be some sort of an inheritable material in the cell, so that the information could be inherited. And then Morgan got the Nobel Prize for inheritance of the chromosomal material. So in 1933, he said chromosomes are related to inheritance. That's nice, but what are chromosomes made up of? Well, it is either protein, or maybe DNA, or maybe both of them together. But the first candidate was not DNA, it was protein. Because it was easier to work with those then. And then, of course, going over the Griffith's experiments, McCarthy and McGrail in 1944, they identified DNA as the inheritable or the inherited biomolecule and responsible for the inheritance. And Martha Chase and Alfred Hershey in 1953 pinpointed that DNA was the really material, but the real revolution came in 1954, explaining that the double-helix structure in an ultra-parallel orientation was indeed the DNA. And look at James Watson. His hair has got no white. He has no white hair, and all his original hair is already there on his head. So it really was an early success for him throughout his scientific career. But basically, when we go back to the elements, root elements, and the molecules, in terms of biomolecules, we don't have much to say and much to do. We have only four. So we either have carbon, which is my best element, I would say. Then there is the oxygen, hydrogen, and from time to time we have others that are also interplaying. And sulfur, of course, adds up together with all of those. And there is also phosphorus, but phosphorus is not an organic molecule. It is indeed an inorganic molecule. Sorry, I forgot nitrogen, which is extremely important, of course. But out of these four basic elements, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon, in biology, we are trying to, not we, but the living things are trying to make polymers. And everything runs around with polymers because we are stuck with only this one handful of elements that we have to repeat. And as you know, there are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So when it comes down to making a structure to carry the information, we have to start from a relatively large molecule where every corner should have some sort of a meaning. So it is the 5-carbon sugar which defines the very basis of life. And the 5-carbon is extremely important. I will go through each carbon one by one and try to explain why each one is important. The first carbon is very important because it contains the base on the DNA or the RNA, which we will discuss in a second. The second carbon is extremely important because it defines whether if it's a ribose or a deoxyribose. And whether if it is a DNA or an RNA is being defined by the second carbon. The third carbon is very important because through the third carbon you add more carbon, so it polymerizes. The fourth carbon is extremely important because it is linked to the fifth carbon, which is very important because it will get linked to a third carbon in the future. So, as I said, the first carbon is important because it is being linked to the bases. Well, basically, there are two types of bases. There are either purines or pyrimidines. So the pyrimidines are the cytosine, uracil, and the thymine, and the purines are the guanine and the adenine. And these are already defining the importance and the information in the DNA molecule. So in terminology, when the base and sugar comes together, it makes a nucleoside. So if you add a phosphate, it becomes a nucleotide. So, and a nucleus, and this phosphate is either 1 phosphate, 2 phosphates, or 3 phosphates. The first phosphate is called the alpha phosphate. We will go through that in a second, indeed. So, this is a nucleoside where the first carbon is linked to an adenine molecule, YIE. So, if the 3 phosphates are being linked to the 5th carbon, as you can see, and phosphate is a relatively nice molecule because with phosphate you can do covalent reactions. And in biology, I'm always trying to tell this to almost everyone that I'm discussing basics of biology with. In the universe, when you look at physics, the reactions happen at very large coefficiency numbers. So if Earth is spinning around Sun, it always spins. It never spins the other way around. So there is no turn like usually. It is always like that. In chemistry, the coefficiency numbers are smaller. So when a reaction happens, well, 99.99% something comes out, but maybe 0.01 there is something else. But in biology, you never know. Well, it is always, sometimes it is like that, but sometimes it isn't. Yes, it's true that when it binds to the receptor, it activates, but sometimes it behaves as an inhibitor. So in biology, the Km numbers are extremely low, so you can never know. But linking to a phosphate is a chemical reaction, so it is strong. It is not a weak interaction like a protein interacting with another protein. And in the basics of nucleic acids, as we have just gone through, we have got these. We have the sugar, phosphate, and the base, and when they come together, it has a structure like that. It is either a deoxythymidine here, because there is no OH here, or it is just thymidine, which would go to the RNA molecule. And well, that's called the famous Watson-Crick base pairing, where the bases pair with each other. So in the DNA structure, DNA is a double helix, anti-parallel double helix, where adenine always has the thymine on the other side, and the guanine always has the cytosine. So this is always the rule, and it never changes. If you force, of course, things may change, but that's how it is always in the negative. And the reaction or the polymerization starts from the 5' end and goes towards to the 3' end. So when a new nucleotide is being added to this chain, it will be added to this 3' end. So it is not possible to add anything to the 5' end. So this is the rule of the thumb. The DNA always runs from 5' to the 3'. And we read it like that as well, and we write it like that as well. So in this structure, we have the phosphate, sugar, and the base. And as you can see, this is the phosphate. And the phosphate has these two oxygen-linked bonds, which we call a diester bond, that is linking each sugar to each other. So there is a sugar-phosphate backbone, which carries the bases. And as you know, phosphate is a relatively hydrophilic molecule because it has at least a negative charge on it. So the sugar phosphate backbone of the DNA is more soluble compared to the base. This is the reason why when it makes a helix, the bases are inside and facing each other. So in this context, the next strand comes along here, but in the opposite direction, and we will go and see it right now indeed. So it runs 3' to 5' on this side, and 5' to 3' on the other side. It is always the rule. So here, as you see, thymine faces the adenine. So this is a purine, this is a pyrimidine, this is another purine, this is a pyrimidine. It is always the purine facing the pyrimidine. It has to be like that. There is no other way around. Because there is no other space here. As you can see, there are two rings in the purine, and there is only one single ring in the pyrimidine. That's the reason why they can't fit in. So the two of them together, like if the one purine and another purine, there is not enough space to fit in. And the two pyrimides cannot be close enough to make these hydrogen bonds. So I will come to that hydrogen bond in a second. Indeed, the hydrogen bonds are the weak bonds that help the molecules to interact with another. This afternoon we will go through this with its details, but when you go really deep into the fundamentals of PCR, in the denaturation step, while you are heating up the DNA, indeed you are breaking up those hydrogen bonds here to make it single-stranded. If you give enough energy to the DNA molecule, you can break it up. Not break, but melt it down. The two strands will be separated from each other. So, and in terms of structure, there are a couple of rules here that I would like to go through. So there are two antiparallel strands that are linked by weak hydrogen bonds, and the base pairing occurs between the purines and the pyrimidines, and an adenine and a thymine bond with two hydrogen bonds, and a guanine and the cytosine bind with three hydrogen bonds. So if we look here together, as you see, the guanine and the cytosine are linked by 1, 2, and 3 bonds, and A and T are linked by only 2. So as you can see, the more G's and C's, the more bonds are there. The less G's and C's, it means more A's and T's, it will be less bonds. So this means that if you heat it up, if you transfer some energy to the solution containing this DNA molecule, if it has more G's and C's, you need higher energy to break it up because the number of hydrogen molecules are more. This has very important applications in PCR in terms of designing the annealing temperature of primers, which is not my subject, but its fundamentals are here in the structure. And again, as I just said, the double-stranded DNA molecule always has the same number of A's and T's and the same number of T's and C's because they're facing each other. And the DNA has a helical structure as well. And the DNA helix orientation is depicted by the sugar residue. So it runs from 5' to 3' all the time. And it is always elongated from the 3' end, and the DNA polymerases from 5' to 3' direction. And it is also very this is again the same structure. The 5' end has a 5' phosphate and the 3' end has a 3' hydroxy. So a new one ends up here, and on this strand the new one ends up to the top. So A pairs with the T and B pairs with the C, and they are antiparallel. But when it comes down to the RNA, with the reverse transcription reaction that we're going to do in the applied session getting to the floor, so the RNA is being synthesized, being converted to DNA. But when we look at the RNA, we don't have thymine. Instead of thymine, there is the uracil which is forming with the A. Uracil is the only structure that exists in the RNA molecule, and it is different from the DNA. DNA is an extremely stable molecule, biomolecule, especially the plasmids. Because the plasmids are really difficult to break. So they are circular, they have no ends, and they're double-stranded, they are extremely protected. But when it comes to RNA, RNA is extremely liable and it even breaks down itself. It breaks itself as well. So working with RNA really requires a lot of attention. So apart from that, the DNA sequence, as a rule, is written from the 5' to the 3', and it pairs with a complementary strand with A's and P's, with 2 hydrogen bonds, and B's and C's with 3 hydrogen bonds. And when we come back to the real structures and the fundamentals of this, or topology